Okay, so we are live.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so Twitch doesn't let us put Jews in the title of our channel, but we can title the stream "Controlling the Media" with two Jews feet.
We can't put Jews in the title.
Oh, of the stream, I actually don't know. No, we
We
can.
do.
No, yeah, it is. No, it's in the title of the stream. I just meant, yeah, the channel name.
Let's do acolytes of Soros discuss plans.
Okay, that's better. Here, I can change that. Do you actually want me to change it to that?
I was kind of kidding,
Okay.
half kidding.
Yeah. Hey man, George Soros, I love the guy. He seems really. I honestly don't know the first thing about him. He's just one of those crazy guys I've heard so many people talk about. I've never wanted to like look it up and be like, oh, so what's the deal with this guy?
I think he's partially owning certain media platforms, and
Yeah,
he's Jewish, and he's left leaning. That's
yeah,
all I
yeah.
got. He like has a
He's
lot of political influence.
yeah, he's like a liberal who donates like an enormous amount of money to things.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never really looked into it too much either.
yeah,
I don't really care.
yeah.
So Twitch draws the line at using the word Jew, but like recommended channels for teenagers or younger is like softcore porn, like basically just
Oh,
cam girls. That's
oh, and
cool.
I have way more of a like that stuff is weird. I do feel uncomfortable, even though I'm fine with sex work. It's like a platform that is tailored to young people, young
That's what I
kids.
mean.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I do honestly feel weird to think like, okay, like this sex worker or like sort of soft sex worker has like thousands of potentially 12-year-old boys watching them. Like, that just seems really fucked. Um, but no, I
Especially
have way,
since it's like pseudo intimacy.
yeah, and it's like I don't know. I'm sure it's not gonna like ruin people's minds, but it's not helpful probably. And yeah, no, but I do have way more of a problem with like the fact that Twitch or YouTube will just easily suggest things that I would consider probably like I don't know hateful or like people being I don't know bigoted or something. But
I
like
think it
yeah,
actually is. Sorry, keep going. I didn't
well,
mean to
no, because
interrupt you.
you and I talk about free speech a lot, and often I'm sort of put on this side of like defending like limits on speech, but there's a lot of times where I'm definitely not a fan of that, and so like even as much as like Twitch and YouTube might sometimes let things go that I wouldn't want them to, there is a lot of times it's the opposite, and so like there are people I know who talk about like LGBT issues and get their videos demonetized or something like that, or even like hidden or stuff like that. But I guess it's obviously not easy for these platforms to delineate everything, with
Yeah.
computers. But we have we have one person watching. Do you want to introduce the stream? Say what we're about here. Besides
Yeah,
controlling the media.
sure. We're Jewish people, and we're gonna talk about stuff that we find interesting.
That's true.
It's really just like we at one point, I think because we're so introspective, we realize that what we're saying to each other is just very objectively interesting, and that other people probably would agree. So it was like kind of I guess a civil service is what we're doing
Yeah,
here. We feel like we
yeah.
should be putting it out.
Yeah, I'm actually getting like a medal from the president after this for just being such a good person to,
Funny, I play soccer 2 times a week, and we won our league this past
Oh shit.
Wednesday. And the ref like presented us with a case of beer and a medal. And she like handed me the medal, and I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like it's just going to a landfill. And she's like, what? You don't want it? And I was like, no. She's like, well, but you could give it to someone. I'm like, then they would just put it in a landfill. Like, really, I'm okay. I don't want it.
So are we talking a medal that goes around your neck or what?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll show you because I have an old one too. I think this is this is from that. Yeah.
don't
This is they give it out every time. I'm like, no, I don't want this. It's just like
Oh, yeah, yeah. I get that. Yeah. I mean, so you're saying you wish it was a trophy. That's what you're trying to say.
that's exactly right. I
Yeah.
wish it were a series of trophies,
Yeah.
like Russian doll style, so that per volume it's more material.
I know you follow chess a tiny bit. Did you see the trophy Hikaru won with a recent tournament?
No, did he win that $1 million tournament thing?
So that's going on right now, and he's doing really well. But yeah, look up here. I can pull it up on stream too.
I
Look up.
just Googled Hikaru Trophy. It looks like a piece
Yes,
of poop.
yes. It looks
Or
like
is it
a.
a meteorite?
It's supposed to represent randomness because it's like the Fisher Random Trophy.
Yeah, it
Um,
looks like feces.
which like I'm definitely not even complaining. I just think it's hilarious that's like what they went with because
He
often,
knows, right?
yeah. I mean, I assume the photo I saw, his face was like, it looks like he's making a funny expression. Here, let me pull this up on
He's
screen.
going like
Amazing stuff.
wow, that's pretty funny.
Let's see. So if I do this and then let me,
Yes. He knows.
yeah, there we go. Here, I'm pulling it up on stream so people can like,
So
yeah.
like did they take Fisher Random seriously?
Yeah, yeah, they did. They took it seriously. It was like yeah, I
We
mean
should say
they
what that is because people won't know.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
Fisher yeah, yeah, you want to explain?
no, you got it. You're better at chess. I
Yeah, no,
really.
just Fisher random. The pieces all start in a random spot. So there's 960 different starting positions. So it's harder to plan out openings. And so
All your
you
big pieces, right? Not your
your big
pawns.
pieces. Your pawns are still in the same line, and then your big pieces switch around. Right, right, right. So it just makes it so you can't rely on opening theory. And so they sort of do and they don't. Like it's more of a casual tournament. They were like chilling, talking with each other more. But they definitely like want to win, and it's like meaningful to win because it does represent this like I'm genuinely a good chess player outside of
Yeah.
my opening prep. Yeah.
I've heard Magnus and Bobby Fischer talk about it. I know
Oh yeah.
Fischer, I guess, went off the rails, so to speak,
Yeah, I guess
or
so. Yeah.
is a radical dude or became radical later in life. Maybe always was.
I don't know.
Hard to say, but um, he described what you just said is that it like gets at how good you are at thinking through the game of chess and ignores all prep, which a lot of high
Right.
level chess has become. What's so interesting though is like the highest level chess players. Do you tell me if you think I'm right about this?
Sure. Yeah.
They are extraordinarily good at prep. They have to be. And they
Yeah.
have to be really good at rote memorization of openings, what to do in each line. But you can't do that with like a lot of positions or endgames. I mean, chess very quickly can go out of theory. I mean, it does go out of theory a lot of the time, right?
The tricky thing with that, it totally does, and you're totally right. But the one thing I've learned from watching these broadcasts more often is like you'll be like, say, in an end game or something, and the GM commentating will say, "Oh yeah, because this is the A pawn rather than the C pawn. If it was the C pawn, it would be a draw. If it was the A pawn, you play it like this. You have the rooks. So there are still these sort of like algorithms that come into play throughout the whole game where they're like, okay, bishop,
Really?
yeah, bishops against knights is usually good, but if it's a closed position, then the knights are good. So it is similar to theory. It is theory, but it's similar to opening theory that comes up throughout the game. But definitely it's like a heavier amount in the beginning because it's just like
Yeah.
it's been done before. Like people know
So
these openings.
so let me rephrase it then. If Fisher Random was the way that chess were played instead of standard chess, do you think that the same pros would still be the top 10?
That's a great question. I assume it would shuffle up somewhat, but to your point also a second ago is like there's so many different qualities that are involved in being a good chess player, just like any athlete, like anything really. I mean, being good at any job is like how much do you know about it? How much are you able to have impulse control? How much are you able to control your mood? How much do you exercise so you can be in like good shape when you're at the board? So there's really so many things. So honestly, I'm not even joking. Like, so yeah, if they made the games like shorter or longer, that would change up the top 10 probably. You know, if they, but yeah, definitely Fisher, it would change things up. Magnus made some weird blunders in the Fisher tournament, but that could just be because he's like stressed or something. I mean, he's being like sued. That's probably not that stressful, but a little stressful. But yeah,
Um, do you do you think anyone in like the top 10 chess players are better than Magnus at any one particular aspect of chess?
that's a
Or is
really
he
good
better at
question.
everything?
Yeah, I honestly, well, if you look at like Blitz or Rapid, you might be able to say like Hikaru's better at like Blitz or something. I don't know. I just know people have said that. I don't know that I necessarily believe it. But if you look at that kind of stuff, you could probably make a good argument. Um, I mean, he's known for Magnus can play like any opening. It seems like. So I don't know how anyone could be better at openings. Maybe some people are better at some openings. Um,
Doesn't
Magnus is,
Magnus?
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna say he's famous for like converting like an equal end game into winning. Like he's famous for like really being able to get the like anything out of a position. So that's something he's really good at. Yeah, I have a hard time thinking of anything he's like not the best at, but it's like also a bias, like because he's world champion. I think once he's not world champion anymore, maybe you see through some of the mistakes a little bit more. But
Do you think he'll stay at the top for a long period of time? Is there like
probably.
this? Do you think like mental horsepower is a real thing, and do you think it declines after like your 20s or 30s?
Do you mean like the momentum of, or like just mental horsepower, like how much,
Oh,
like yeah, how able to think you
yeah.
are?
Like if you
Yeah,
think back to like taking the SATs or like any
yeah,
sort of test where you just have to like hard think for an extended period of time, it takes a lot of
yeah.
effort.
It does. I think getting older definitely affects people's chess playing. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he definitely wants to stay at the top. He seems like even though he doesn't want to be world champion, I'm sure he wants to be the highest rated player for as long as possible. Because he's also like maybe 5-ish or so years away from like definitely being at the top.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah, more than Kasparov, I think. I don't know exactly how it works out, but at a certain point, but I don't know. How much does he really care about that at the end of the day? I don't know. So, but yeah, no, people's skills definitely decline as they get older. I mean, yeah, but you also get better at certain ways, more experience in certain ways. So,
The better of all time thing really is a hard one to answer, but
yeah.
he is the best chess player of all time. He's the best at chess of anyone we've ever seen, objectively. So if Magnus now played Kasparov in his prime, played Fischer in his prime, Magnus wins all of those. But of course, his skill is contextualized with the resources he's had, like access to engines, for
Mm,
example, and it knowledge of chess builds on what has come before.
right.
So is he on a relative basis better than either of those? I don't know.
Right.
That's a harder question to answer. But if you like made a perfect Magnus bot and played Kasparov and played Fischer bot, Magnus
Right.
wins. Is that fair to say, you
Well,
think?
I honestly don't know. You said that confidently, but I don't know. I would probably agree, but some people would disagree. But that's a really interesting point because he's like yeah he has these benefits that from time, but then again like Gary Kasparov, I don't know his whole history, but say he like got these special tutors in Russia or whatever, and so it's like Magnus didn't get those, but he got other benefits. But yeah, and then Bobby Fischer is crazy. Like since we are like a Jewish themed broadcast, it's crazy because he was Jewish and then he became like I guess anti-Semitic. I haven't looked up the exact things he said, but that's sort of the story. Um,
I
but
didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing.
oh yeah no, it's specifically anti-Semitic. Yeah
Really? I'm looking it
yeah.
up.
We should pull it up because and like people, a lot of chess players still feel very positively about him, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I don't think it's a bad thing actually, because I
Okay.
think someone having anti-Semitic beliefs doesn't mean that they're spoiled as a human being, but it maybe doesn't help. But yeah, we can look it up to see what he
He's a
actually.
Holocaust denier?
That's not ideal, yeah.
Damn. I just googled Bobby Fischer anti-Semitism and the first article was from the Atlantic and it's titled Bobby Fischer's pathetic endgame.
Yeah, and it's like the interesting thing is I really haven't looked into it enough. I'll say for the 5 years I am a therapist, which sort of informs this next point. I know he had mental health issues to a significant extent. I don't know what they were. I think that's a very interesting question, which maybe can transition into talking about Kanye West if we feel like it.
Yep.
Of like,
Yep.
where does someone's mental health issues stop, and where does their bigotry begin, and how does blame play in there? Because it's true, like when someone has mental health issues, like it doesn't justify whatever they do, but it does help explain it
Right.
sometimes. And like, it's bizarre to act like, oh, there's no change in blame at all when mental of course there's some change. It doesn't exonerate someone, but you have to take it into account. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. What do you think of all that?
I think Fischer did LSD, like a lot of it.
I
I
didn't
don't know.
know that at all.
No. I said think. I've never read that or anything. I just get Ted Kaczynski vibes from him, like super bright, like raw intelligence, and then like thinks about things in a totally different way, and then
Yeah.
eventually morphs into like acid brain.
I mean, it's so funny because like he could have just literally never done psychedelics and just had mental health issues, and it can look very
Sure.
similar.
It's true. You ever look at like a brain scan of someone who's had way too much LSD over their lifetime?
No, what does it look like?
I believe it gets all like Swiss cheesy.
Yeah, yeah. I've
I'm
done
just gonna Google that before I.
I've done psychedelics, and honestly, I'm at the point where I would never recommend that someone do psychedelics. If someone wanted to do them, I would have good advice on how to do it like safely and well and stuff. But I would never be like, oh, you want X, Y, and Z in your life? You should try psychedelics. That'll help you. You know.
I totally. I I shouldn't say I totally agree. I partially agree. I
Yeah.
think that you should only do drugs of any kind when you're already in a good spot.
Sure.
I think that if you're using them to bring you from back like far down to normal or yeah, if you're
Yeah.
below anything other than your middle, don't
Yeah.
do them because then
That's
like
great. Yeah.
it's the wrong reason. I think.
Yeah.
I really don't prefer alcohol. I have it maybe. Yeah, I really don't have it that much.
Nice.
Um, I haven't in a few months.
That's sick.
Except for a drink at a friend's wedding. So someone I knew I wouldn't see again for a few years. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like ceremonial. But
Yeah.
um, I was having a rough day the other day, and my wife was like, "Can I get you like a beer or something like that?" Which was a really nice sentiment. But I was like, "No, thank you. Like it would help take the edge off right now, and that's exactly why I don't want to have it."
I mean, I think that's very smart. Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't follow that all the time. Like, but at a certain level, I would definitely follow it. Like, if I'm actually not doing well, I would definitely not. Especially doing more serious drugs. But no, that's extremely good advice in all situations. There's no point. I mean, you want to let your body also feel bad sometimes, and your brain feel bad. Like, you don't want to try to
I
change it.
agree.
Yeah, yeah,
I agree.
for
Yeah, it's
sure.
really important to like work through that with your like in your baseline. Like
Yeah,
get your regular neurochemistry used to working back from there to normal because
yes.
otherwise you're going to use that as a coping mechanism. It's not hard to see why you wouldn't.
And it doesn't work that well. Like even if you do get a good result for like a few hours, like you definitely are going to crash, and it's probably going to be worse than where you started. I mean,
Totally agree.
yeah,
Totally agree. Yeah, it doesn't actually like help you solve anything usually unless you like really need to access some altered state of mind to like work through a complex problem and then like come back to
yeah,
normal. Like some people describe like they're stuck in some sort of like heavily plastic way of thinking and like
right,
a high dose of psilocybin might help them think about a problem in a completely new way and like get
right.
them to revisit traumatic events in a way that like stirs up a completely new line of thinking that they're able to bring back with them. I think that's a
Mm.
very different medicinal. I really meant like recreationally
Yeah, yeah.
using drugs.
No, totally. I mean, it's like tricky because it's valid, and like once in a while that could work. It's just, but yeah, I guess you want to be in a really good state of mind. You want to have your life mostly where you want it, and then if you can make that rational decision, like maybe it'll be a net benefit to help me think through this. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Yeah, I had times in my life where I smoked a lot of weed, and then I would take a break, and I would have so much more emotions. It was like immediately
Hmm.
noticeable that
Yeah,
like I would be sad more, but also I think happy as well. But even this being sad more, it's like not a bad thing. Like I would get hit with like waves of feelings, and I was like, whoa, this is definitely like because I'm not smoking tonight or something.
I wonder what that would feel like. I had a feeling the other day for the first time in a while, and it doesn't happen to me all that often, so it was pretty cool. Um, like emotions,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I was at like a major hospital network, and I was waiting for someone who was doing something in the area. Uh, so I like looked up pianos in the area to go play on,
Hmm.
and I found uh, I found this like really old but decently well kept piano in the lobby of a major hospital, and so I just like sat down and played it for a while. And no, this is a real story. This
No,
was
I mean this is awesome. I'm
last week.
loving this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a couple people like stopped by. Some people because they had to. They like had to pay for their parking like right by it.
Yeah.
But it was in the lobby, so like as everyone's leaving for the day, they were coming through. And a couple
Dude,
people
that's
sat
sick.
down and just like listened. And this woman came over to me and just like thanked me for playing. She was like, well, like asked me a little bit about my playing, like how long, that kind of stuff, the normal questions.
Yeah.
And then she said to me, like, I just got done with a round of chemo and I really
Right.
needed this today. So, like, thank you for
Right.
doing this. And she went back and sat down and just listened till I had to go.
Yeah.
And it brought her to tears, which, like, come on, dude. Like, I never get
Dude,
the opportunity to touch someone that way with
that's
playing
so
my instrument.
cool.
So, yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really cool. I would go back and do it again and again.
Well, you're incredibly good at piano, dude. So
I
and no,
love that.
really, you really, really. I don't care if objectively, but from my position, you're incredibly good at piano. And like,
Thanks, man.
I'm not surprised at all. What were you playing? Anything I might know?
I did a mix
Yeah,
of different stuff.
nice. Some of
It
that
was
list.
mostly classical. I did play a little Liszt, although
Yeah.
man, that piano's action was not prime for Liszt.
Okay, wait. This is what I need to ask though. As soon as you started telling the story, without revealing personal information, I don't think you have to. Do you have an app or something that reveals pianos in the area?
Nah,
How,
I just Googled. I like used Reddit and other stuff. I was like, hey, like public pianos around here.
dude, that literally is needs to be an app. That is such a good idea. I was at a place nearby me that in the summer like puts a piano like has a piano that the public can play. And I went in and I was asking them like, "Hey, what's the deal with that piano? Like, what do you do with it like in the winter? Like, how do people get access to it? You know, hypothetically." And I had a nice conversation with the person. I don't know if I'm gonna get to play it, but dude, that should be an app. That literally should be a fucking app. That's such a
Yeah,
great idea.
the demand is not really there. There's some websites that have tried to crowdsource it, especially for airports,
Yeah.
to make it like clear for people who are just like passing through. It
Yeah.
would be cool to just be able to be like, boop, like people do it with Waze, right? With a cop.
Right.
So like, why can't you do that with a piano? You
Yeah.
could. I just don't think that many people are in them. Like, first of all, how would you monetize it? I guess, and then
That's
like,
true. Yeah. It's like Craigslist. But yeah, no, that's really sick though to have that opportunity to like
it was
touch
cool.
someone and it touches you to play, and that's really sick.
Yeah, it was
Um,
cool. It was really
yeah.
cool.
Well, yeah, you should go back there and keep playing. That sounds awesome. Well,
I will. I think I will. It's not the most convenient thing, but it was like it was meaningful. I felt like what I was doing actually mattered, which
yeah.
in my like most of the things that I do, it doesn't really feel. I get like a constant overtone of like existential dread of like why am I going to do my job? Like why am I doing this? Like all of this is going to turn to dust, but that actually made me feel it was fulfilling. That's the word I would use. It was fulfilling.
That's why do you think that's different from other stuff? Not just job, but other stuff. Like, why do you think that's more fulfilling than other stuff?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much. I haven't like processed it. It was a cool
No, I
experience
just
and I kind of just left it at that.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. I don't mean to like overthink it. I just because I think about this type of thing too. Like, obviously I understand the existential, like everything turns to dust type of thing. But yeah, it's just interesting how like stuff still matters. We still do things, as if they matter, and they do matter. And I always think about like why is that? And I was thinking about this yesterday, and I do think it's because like what matters is like how people would be like all that matters is like the present moment. You know how
Mm,
people will say that? I don't agree with that, but I think there's some truth to that in the sense that like all that matters is present moments, but not like this one, just this one, but also like any present moment. Like any, feelings people have or like things that like just yeah, like experience basically is what matters. So like that person being touched in that moment matters regardless of whether they die and everyone they ever know dies because that feeling is like a nice good thing and it doesn't have to lead to anything. I feel like I'm getting at something, but I don't know how to describe it.
that's called hedonism, isn't it? I mean,
But
that's
so, but if you're living in a hedonist way, you're saying all that matters is my pleasure now, not my pleasure or pain in the future, right?
thought you just wanted to like maximize your amount of pleasure across your lifetime
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
if you're a
but I'm not
hedonist.
even talking about pleasure per se, and yeah, it's not even like it doesn't have to be a good feeling. It's just like experience. All like what makes things valuable is like because pleasure and pain are real and you want to like make living things enjoy their sentient experience, I guess is where I'm coming from.
I don't know. I guess I struggle with that as like that's a big assumption that you're making, you know, like why do our experiences even matter? Um,
Well, it's sort of like I guess I feel like, well, if they mattered, this is why they would matter. You
okay,
know,
fair enough.
because like you have to live as if things matter to some extent.
I guess,
Yeah,
yeah, and I certainly do. I may
yeah.
not feel that way, but I certainly do. I think I've been listening to too much Lex Friedman recently, where he definitely spouts off about like love is very important, but there's a lot of people on there that like speak about the nature of life and humanity and the universe in a very deconstructed way,
Hmm.
where like we are just another organism, and that
Hmm.
kind of gets rid of the whole like yeah human life is really valuable idea. It's like
Hmm.
yeah okay according to humans. um
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never listened to his podcast. I've heard so much about it,
you
and
definitely should.
yeah.
I think you'd
Um,
enjoy it.
yeah, I know that he is a big like talks about love and stuff. I guess I don't really know what that means without understanding the context and stuff.
I
But
don't I don't either. When he says it, he doesn't either.
fair enough. He's yeah. But I just it's like yeah, it's not even just about being human. Like I just for me, if there's any answer to like things mattering, it seems like it has to be like because like experience I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like when you're experiencing something, like that's a phenomenon occurring, and you want it to be as good as it can be because why not? Because your only other option is for it to be worse. Then I don't know if that's nonsense, but like
Let's move on
like
to the Jew thing.
yeah, yeah, fair enough. So, do you want to talk about Kanye West or Kyrie Irving? They're definitely related. I was really curious what you thought about the Kyrie Irving stuff for sure.
You mean like is it okay that he was suspended?
Yes, specifically that because it's not
Yeah,
so
why not?
interesting that there's an anti-Semitic person. It's like okay, yeah, of course there's an anti-Semitic
Yeah,
person.
why not? Were you thinking it'd be like super so pro free speech that's like damn he's being canceled for
I
that?
I wasn't assuming that you would think that. I just think it's another great example of like, yeah, what do are the consequences? How do we know that the consequences are good, or like, how do you, who do we give the yeah? Do we consider that censorship, or do we consider that? So, what is it that makes you see it as like? Is it justified, or is it just like you don't even question whether it's justified because like they have the right to do it as the NBA and so on, or
Seems justified to me. They
so
definitely legally have the right to do it, but
but
I
those are
also think
different,
that
right?
more morally they have the right to do it as well.
Right. So yeah, like do you look to whether it's justified in these situations or do you feel like you first look to like whether there's the right? And I don't even think one is right or wrong. I just think about that as like an interesting difference. Like are you trying to assess like, oh yeah, it's because of what he said, the harm he did, it makes sense or like could do, it makes sense to, punish him with these consequences? Or do you say like
Oh, I gotcha.
or do you say like, well, I don't even have to look at that because they have the right to,
Yeah, it's more that one.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
definitely way more that one. I don't so yeah, okay, I was going to bring that up too. So like it's not about the potential harm that he's doing. So I was going to bring up and toss this back in your court. Like
yeah.
I know that we've had disagreements in the past on speech around trans stuff, is how I would like frame it. And I think that I take the view, correct me if you don't agree on this, but I take the view that like um misgendering someone is not putting people at risk and should not be censored for such. And I think you take the other side of that argument. Is that accurate?
But based on, I do think misgendering people does harm. But based on what you're saying, like with the Kyrie stuff, like we shouldn't even have to consider whether it does harm because it's there are like say like a university wants to like fire a professor for like repeatedly misgendering people. Like based on what we're saying with Kyrie, like you wouldn't even be looking at whether it does harm. You would just be saying, well, the university has the right to do that.
There's two opinions I would say. Do they have the right to do it or not? And do I agree with the decision or
Okay,
not?
yeah,
So
fair
if
enough.
I were in
Yeah,
their shoes, would I do the same thing?
yeah.
And in the case of Kyrie Irving or Adidas dropping Kanye or whatever, I agree with their decisions. Also, they have the right to do it. In
Right.
the case of, I don't know, some other form of censorship that I happen to disagree with, it was like, okay, Trump being banned off Twitter. Disagree with that decision, but they had the right to do it.
Right. So if like a left wing person was like there were like protests going on in Michigan, a left wing person is like liberate Michigan and like sort of riling up the crowd, like you'd have the same view. It doesn't have to do with it being Trump or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Liberate Michigan. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just that was like one of the things he said. I don't remember
Are they
exactly.
fighting words? No? Okay.
Right. So yeah, so there's a line for you when it's like clearly fighting words. So with Kyrie though, or someone like that, like so if he had, I think he said a few things, but the main thing was he linked to a documentary that I don't know the details, but it's anti-Semitic. Apparently, it's just a classic anti-Semitic documentary or something, and he linked to it.
Jesus was not Jewish. Um,
Oh God,
the hold on, Jesus was not Jewish.
that's such a weird
The
point to make.
well, because like, yeah, what do you want from me?
No, 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 not you. I just mean
Holocaust
that is
didn't
such a
happen.
weird
I
way to
know, I
be
know, I know.
anti-Semitic. Yeah.
And the third one's like, was it about Israel? I think it was about Israel. I don't remember.
Sure, sure. I didn't even look into it, which makes me feel a little stupid. But it's like at this point, you just know this type of stuff. It's like okay, I could look into it. But yeah, the main thing was him linking to it and then not apologizing. So if he linked to something that was like gay people are like at higher risk to like sexually abuse children or something like that, would you feel the same way about him being about the consequences he faced if he faced the exact same consequences, but it wasn't targeting Jews, it was targeting some other group or something like that. Does that
Yeah,
change the legal or the whether you agree side in either way?
yeah, legal it doesn't change, but
Okay.
whether I agree with it or not, I really prefer to answer this kind of stuff on a case by case basis,
Yeah.
looking at the specific evidence, because I really do think it's a nuanced thing. I think the devil is in the details. If Kanye were saying, if Kanye said something to the effect of like verbatim, there's a disproportionate number of Jewish people in highly influential media positions based on their representation in the population. I don't think he articulated it quite that well.
No, I'm
But
sure
had he
not.
said it like that, I don't think he should be canceled for that statement. If he
Sure.
says the Jews control the media, I think that's okay to cancel him for that statement.
Hmm.
I really think that articulating your point, being very clear about what you do mean and what you don't mean, matters in this kind of stuff. When we're
Sure.
talking about sensitive topics, whether it is Jewish people or whether it is any other social issue, I guess you could say that we're talking about, the
Yeah.
devil's in the details.
Yeah, for sure. But like, it's also like, why would Kanye West need to be talking about that, even in a nice, polite way? And what if he brought it up like every day, in like the nicest, most delicate way?
Matters. Both
Yeah, but
matter.
right, right, right. So that would change things. You say it in a delicate way, but it's every day.
That's why it's case by case. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like yeah, I feel like in that way of saying like, well, they legally have the right, but I disagree, or they legally have the right, but I agree. I feel like in that agree or disagree, there's a lot of like assumptions about like what power institutions should take, I guess, and like when they should assert their power over people or
I got
over
it.
people.
I agree. Can we pivot to
Yeah.
just a slightly different one? So I think that the Daily Wire should drop Candace Owens. I always thought they should. I never thought they should have picked her up um,
Yeah.
as talent, but
Yeah.
talent. But yeah, I think because of I think she I don't know after Kanye's statements she platformed him, but then they didn't air it. I think that's
Hmm.
correct,
Okay.
and I think behind closed doors, the Daily Wire like gave her a talking to of like this is not
Hmm.
how this is gonna go.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think they should separate ties with her. I think they
So
should have a long time ago.
that's an interesting point. Do you feel like she does more harm than anyone else at the Daily Wire, or is it a different metric that you're looking at rather
I don't
than
know if she does. See, that's such a hard one to quantify, and I think that that phrase really bugs me. I guess I see it most often used how much harm you do with your speech. I see it mostly used with respect to trans people. Um,
sure,
that's I think how much I like in terms of where I've seen it in our discourse. That is
sure,
where I think I see it the most. And I think it's just such a nebulous concept. It's so subjective to me. What is the harm? How do you quantify it?
Right.
Is it actually harm? Who gets to decide what it is? I don't like it because you can, I think, shape it however you'd like.
Hmm.
Um, it just doesn't seem like a useful thing to try to help figure out what should we do in this situation.
Right. But when you say like, if it was fighting words that would be different, I guess you're saying like something that statistically seems most likely to lead to harm. Like, if someone's on Twitter and they're like, go kill this person type of thing, like that's pretty like unequivocally likely to lead to harm, right? But the question is like, yeah, does someone saying like does me calling someone a slur like do harm? Like do you feel like it's not clear because it's emotional harm in those situations, or are there points where emotional harm becomes enough where it's like, okay, that's harm clearly,
Really
or
good question. You touched on like a few different points
yeah,
in
it's all
there.
right, yeah, yeah,
Emotional harm to me is not harm that should be protected. Um, Emotional harm is not something that matters to me, I guess, in the context of free speech. I don't think that's something we should try to
I get that, yeah,
protect. I specifically, when I hear harm or when I'm thinking about speech that's doing harm, I'm thinking
yeah,
about can you directly tie this to physical violence?
right,
I don't think we should be ever trying to regulate our people's feelings hurt. That seems like
right,
really dangerous territory, even if your feelings are super, super hurt.
right,
And I know that this gets into some gray territory where we're talking about like targeted harassment or bullying, where
right,
like you can really make someone's world feel awful. And I think
right,
that we should probably be especially careful around children when like
right.
they're in a school environment and like their world feels so small, they're in a microcosm, there's this like pile on that can happen. That feels a little bit different to me, but like in the public discourse where you can just fucking get off Twitter or mute people, like
Sure.
if there's an alternative, if there's an off ramp, I always prefer to defer to that than regulation or telling people what they can or can't say.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get that. Like, if it was just about like emotional pain, like as much. So what I was saying before with like the meaning of life is, in the moment and stuff. Like that relates to this in the sense that like you shouldn't go out of your way, obviously, to make people feel bad. But that's different from saying like what regulations should be in place to protect people from
Sure.
feeling bad. Of course. And so I do agree. Like, if it was just emotional pain, it's really hard to say like anyone has the right to avoid emotional pain. Like that doesn't seem like a right that you have. I think the issue comes in where it's likely to lead to actual violence. So you look at groups that are targeted for hate crimes, like, and you say, okay, well, what speech leads to that? And how do we regulate that? Like, I haven't looked it up, but I'm sure like attacks against Jews like go up and down when things happen and culturally or publicly. I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't want to just speculate, but I wouldn't be surprised if like there were a few more attacks against Jews in the last few weeks in America than usual.
I, I get what you mean,
Yeah.
but the further away from the actual act of violence that you get, the more careful I think you ought to be about regulating that kind of speech.
We just
So
got a follower.
yeah, because it's followers only chat, so maybe they
Yeah.
want to say something.
Yeah, that's why I
Um,
made a followers only chat.
really?
Yeah, yeah, of course. You gotta follow. You want to talk in their chat. What's up? What's up, Samir? How you doing, Samir Emo? Um,
So
right,
I was gonna say
right. The
like
further the further away you get, the more careful you have to be. Yeah,
I like the Supreme Court standard, honestly. I think it makes really good sense. I think they've thought about it a lot. There's been a couple important landmark cases that have helped define this stuff. And if you can't say that there's some sort of imminent threat of harm, I don't see I don't see it being a good idea to regulate that kind of speech.
yeah. It's just a question of imminent, and what does it mean? Are you familiar with the idea of stochastic terrorism? So,
I've heard it before, but why don't you
so
inform me and our viewers?
yeah, I was just relearning. Samir says, "Where are you guys from?" We're from the U.S. Um,
You just
the
doxed me.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, yeah, so stochastic terrorism is the idea of like someone saying things publicly that is very likely to lead to
Oh,
attacks, but you can't draw the line.
I
And
gotcha.
I don't think this is, the existence of something like this is not a reason to go crazy on banning speech, of course. But like it's something that needs to be taken into account, and I find it so fascinating. Like it really does get into these deep questions of accountability and free will, honestly. Because it's like, well, how much was that person choosing to do the thing, and how much were they influenced by what someone else chose to say? And like, yeah, like so if I go out and I say, it seems a little funny that Jews are overrepresented in media. I just think that's a little interesting. Yeah, that's not. Come on, like it's hard to say that that's going to lead to harmful acts. But if I go out and I say like Jews are less than human, then it's like, okay, how big was your audience? Who was your audience? What likelihood does it have? But yeah, like I don't know. I guess I'm sort of rambling a little bit, but it's an interesting concept that brings in that is you need to sort of reckon with when you're talking about these issues of free speech for sure. Um,
A common like topic that I hear talked about on some of the podcasts that I listen to is like the concept of raising the temperature. And
right.
that kind of seems similar
Yeah.
to that's like one layer more broad than stochastic terrorism, where
Sure.
you're not
Yeah.
actually calling out a group or individuals, but you are contributing to this feeling of tension between groups of individuals. You're making things hotter in the room. And when
Yeah.
things are hotter, quite literally, at least in the United States, there's more crime. There's more violent
Right.
crime when things are hotter. Um,
When yeah.
Not necessarily due to the heat itself. People are
Yeah.
outside, more interactions, etc. But
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's a topic worth talking about. I think that the way to fix it or deal with it is with good speech, with like explain, like coming up with good ways to fight it with discourse. Yeah, I'm really against regulating any sort of thing like that.
Yeah. What do you it's a slight shift, but I feel like it'll be about some similar stuff. What do you feel about the whole Elon Musk buying Twitter? Like I don't know honestly. How do you feel about Elon Musk in general? I don't even. I'm just
Those are
curious.
two very different
I know.
questions.
Well, I'm just curious. I don't want to make assumptions. I feel like we've talked about him, but I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Cool that he bought Twitter, I guess. It
Okay.
doesn't, I mean, Twitter seems like a kind of a shit company. I wouldn't be too sad if it went away.
But
Um,
like, why would he buy? Okay, yeah, I'm interrupting you already.
Allegedly, he bought it because he sees it as the public town square and wants
Okay.
to fix that.
Okay.
I believe him. I don't know if it's gonna be possible. I've always thought Twitter's business model is kind of shit. It's kind of like a microcosm or like a bellwether, if you will, of like what the media is going to do as a
Yeah.
whole. So like if Twitter starts getting more polarized, like people just saying stuff to incite their base or rile up the other people, drive
Yeah.
engagement, that's what the rest of the broader media is going to do as well. I just don't think it's like a healthy platform for people to try to talk in, and I wish it would die, but something else will always be there to fill that void now.
Yeah.
You want me to answer Elon? Do you want to answer your
Sure.
thoughts on
Yeah.
it first?
Oh no. I'd love to hear. Yeah. Please keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an Elon Musk fan. I
Nice.
certainly do not agree with everything that the man has said or will say,
Yeah.
which is the case for everyone. I don't even agree with everything I've said
Yeah. Fair enough.
in the past. I've said some real stupid shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
But
wouldn't expect you to answer for everything he said or anything like that. Yeah.
I respect that he dreams big, thinks about things differently than other people have in the past, um, and is, as people are starting to say, is not neurotypical.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, but I guess it's hard for me to see like someone buying a company and be like, oh, they probably have good in. Not that I think people have bad intentions, but I just assume it's like selfish intentions. It's hard for me to assume an altruistic intention of someone buying a company. Like it, so, but you genuinely feel like no, he's doing this because he wants to increase free speech or make it like a better platform.
I do. I
Okay.
genuinely do. Yes,
I
I
guess if I
genuinely
liked
do.
someone and they bought a company, I would probably, it would be easier for me to feel that way. But I don't normally think that. Someone buys a company. It's normally like, well, that must be a good business decision. But in this case, it's almost definitely not, dude. I was reading about the deal last night. I was like reading the details of it. So Twitter has lost money 8 out of the last 10 years as a company. I think they were half a billion in debt. I might have some of these numbers out. I think they were half a billion in debt. Now they're, oh no, they had half a billion a year in debt as maybe their payments. I forget if it was interest payments or what. But anyways, he heavily increased the debt load because he needed to. It's like a leveraged buyout. I guess that's what a leveraged buyout is. And then
It would never pay 44 billion in cash. This just doesn't make sense.
yeah, so he's just I don't know, maybe it's like to flex or he's being funny or whatever. Like obviously it's not a big deal. I don't he's allowed to do what he wants with his money. But it's just such an interesting business decision. And then are you on Twitter? I forget.
Technically,
Technically.
I don't use it, but technically,
I use Twitter every day, way more than I wish I did. And it's really funny to be on a platform that just got bought. You feel like, is it sinking? Is it rising? Like, what's going on here with this platform? And he's the CEO or owner. I don't even know what you call him. And
he you see it was his Twitter bio change too.
the complaint hotline offer. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, so I was
It's
curious.
a picture of him as a kid holding a phone.
Right. I was curious specifically what you thought of like some of the ways he talks about free speech with this whole thing, because to me it struck me as disingenuous. Like, are you really talking about? Like, I can try to pull up some of these quotes where he's talking about free speech, and I feel pretty confident being like, that doesn't sound like an actual free speech thing. So
I don't know what you're referring to.
yeah, let me pull something up because I was curious. My feeling with free speech, and I don't know if I've ever said this like super clearly. Maybe I have, but I think it's an issue that everyone cares about. I mean, it's extremely important. Everyone cares about it, and I think it's weaponized. I think people pretend they're doing things about free speech when they're actually doing them for other reasons. And as one example, you see people who are like, I don't want to have to use people's preferred pronouns, and they say it's a free speech issue, right? I mean,
I've heard of that before.
you've heard of that. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, quite often those same people, and I'm not saying you or anyone you like, but a lot of times those same people will also say, "Oh, also being trans is a mental disorder. Oh, also, it's actually bad to call people their preferred pronouns. Oh, also, gender is actually a binary and it's tied to sex." And it's like, wait, I thought this was a free speech issue. Which, it can't be all these things at the same time motivating your behavior.
I'll take the other side of that. Yeah, for me it is. You don't have to assume that about me. I'll tell you myself. But it happened in reverse order, at least for me. Based on when I first learned what the DSM was that psychiatrists use, I was like, oh, okay. So in the context of mental disorders, like there's this thing called gender dysphoria. Learned about that a long time before Bill C-16 and the whole like discussion around should I have to use people's preferred, even like the idea of a preferred pronoun.
Right.
Came way later than the concept of incongruence between sex and gender within an individual. So yes, I believe both of those things. No, I thought framed it, the speech thing was not like a dog whistle for the other beliefs.
Then why mention it?
At least for me.
Then why do people make it all about the free speech? Like you'll see times where that's the majority of what people focus on.
And then huge generalization. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay. I mean, it's my sense that some people like emphasize this as a free speech issue, but then in, say, like another interview or another conversation, they emphasize this other aspect of it. And I guess I wonder how both could be like a reason, because it seems
true. They could both be two mutually exclusive true statements.
But it's not mainly a free speech issue if you genuinely think someone has a mental disorder, and it wouldn't be like say someone's dealing with like some like really bad psychosis, and they're like, I need you to call me, you need to call me king, and you need to bow down to me all the time you see me.
Like Kanye, basically. Not quite, but
I would say I'm definitely not doing that. You are out of your mind, and how dare you expect other people to do that? But if I started talking about, no, it's my free speech right to not call you king, I think you would be right to say, why are you relying on that other reason? You had a really solid reason. So I get that actions can be motivated by multiple sources, but if you already have a really solid reason to do something, you don't need to bring in other reasons. I genuinely
Mm.
feel this. Like, it's like, why would I say, oh no, it's my free speech right to not call you king? It's like I have a solid reason already. I don't have to go to anything else. And I want to just add, not all trans people experience gender dysphoria. Gender
I
dysphoria
had
is
a
something.
feeling you were going to say that. Yeah.
No, I mean it's
Because
true.
they're okay. Sorry. Keep going. Keep
No,
going.
no, it is really true, and like that's just a fact. I mean, people study this. It's not all trans people experience gender dysphoria. You can be not identifying with your birth sex and not necessarily experience gender dysphoria. It's just I read this yesterday in a study. Like this is something people find. So I mean, and also the DSM is just an American thing, and also they used to consider being gay a mental disorder until like 40 years ago. So I mean, yeah, or
Yeah.
50 years ago.
The
Yeah,
idea of a mental disorder is a highly subjective idea anyway.
yeah,
Like something that interferes with your ability to do a kind of life that society as a whole has decided is the right way to live. It's
100%. Yeah.
it's subjective as a concept. So yeah, if there's any psychiatrists in the audience, piss off. No, just
Well,
kidding.
dude. Well, speaking of Elon Musk, man, has that dude not gotten a ton of gender confirming like procedures done? Because his facial hair, I think he's gotten like a significant amount of gender confirming procedures done. I don't know if you know more about that, or he looks like he's taken testosterone or something.
I think he just got hair plugs. That's
Okay.
all I'm aware of.
So is that okay if you're cis, but not if you're trans? Like, I don't. It's like
Don't put words in my
I'm
mouth.
sorry, I didn't mean to imply that for you. I need to be more careful about what I'm implying is what you think. But yeah, I mean it's to me it's such an important issue because it gets down to this fundamental thing of like if no one's doing harm, they should be free to do what they want, and be and so then you could say, well, someone's not doing harm by refusing to gender them correctly. And I would ask you, like, how would you feel if you went throughout your day, everyone called you she? I mean, it'd be kind of weird.
Dude, sometimes people write. I think it's clear by my Discord name here. My name's Josh. Sometimes people address me as John in an email,
Oh, dude,
even when it just said Josh at like the bottom of my email.
is that really dysphoric for you, or
It puts me at risk for violence. I'll say that.
violence?
Puts me at risk of doing violence to them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was
No,
the other. Yeah, yeah. Please, yeah.
I don't know if I can respond to everything that you just said. It would be kind of hard
That's my fault.
uh, all at once. That's okay.
Yeah,
I know it's an issue that you're passionate about, and I like talking to you about it because I know we disagree on so many aspects of it, but
yeah,
I also know that you've spent a lot of time thinking about it really carefully. So I
sure.
think that it's fun to talk to. I genuinely don't have someone on the other side of this issue that I feel like I can
Yeah,
talk to about it.
yeah, and I
Um,
mean, yeah, yeah.
what was the first thing you said? I only remember the last couple of
I
things you
said too
said.
many things. I don't even remember. It's not. It's no big deal. It doesn't matter. It'll come back up if it's important. Yeah.
Where would we even start? Were we on Kanye?
We were talking
How did
about
we get
Kanye,
here?
Elon Musk, free speech with Twitter. Oh yeah, I forgot. I was actually going to pull up one of his tweets where he mentions free speech because I'm curious what you think about it.
Okay, yeah, that is what you were gonna do.
Yes. So okay, he's tweeting "Power to the people." I'm too cynical maybe, but I just can't believe it when someone says that kind of shit. It's like, yeah, okay, dude. Okay, but let's see. Where does he mention free speech?
Kind of a 4chan shit poster that happens to have a lot of influence.
Right, and that to me seems really dangerous.
I love it.
I've never
Chaotic
used 4chan.
neutral.
Yeah.
I like saw it. I mean, I was never an active user on 4chan. I had visited the website like a couple of times and someone was like, yo, check out what this /B thing is. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
That was about it.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get my tech going so I can actually pull it up on screen. So
Without
here's what he window capture just turn on. Okay, here's what he said. So he said Twitter
I
has
saw this.
Yeah, okay. So it was like yesterday. Twitter has had a massive drop in revenue due to activist groups pressuring advertisers, which I won't even go into that, but I think he has no evidence for that being the reason. But okay, advertisers make their decision. Even though nothing has changed with content moderation and we did everything we could to appease activists. Extremely messed up. They're trying to destroy free speech in America. So, when I see this, I see it as a disingenuous reference to free speech because he's specifically talking about companies exercising their free speech by not advertising on his platform. Do you see this in a different way? Do you see it as does he genuinely care about free speech when he says something like this, or is it just more of a catchword? What do
This
you
one,
think?
I think he's like pissed about. Like, dude, the prospects for this company I just bought that didn't look good already now are even worse. Because if you can't advertise, what's your business model going to be for Twitter? Charging AOC $8 a month isn't going to cut it.
And I think the advertising is 90% of Twitter's revenue. I think I read that. I
Yeah, for
could be
sure.
wrong.
I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
could
yeah.
never
Right.
make the monthly payments enough for the
Yeah.
current burn rate that they have. Like, their expenses are far too high. But
Right.
um, this comes off as like a little bit of whiny drivel, I think, mostly. But if I wanted to give it the most charitable read possible, I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that advertisers are pulling out as a virtue signal thing rather than, oh, here's a specific view that new Twitter is allowing that we really like genuinely don't agree with.
Sure.
Whereas a company like Adidas might be saying like, yeah, we were started by an actual Nazi, but now,
Right. I forgot about that. That's very worth mentioning by brothers who were Nazis. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and Puma, but and
yeah. Yeah.
Volkswagen and IBM. Oh, okay, never mind,
Yeah.
never mind, never mind. And Ferdinand Porsche.
So,
Sorry.
no, but you can criticize that. I mean, that's totally fair. Like they're it's a feeling. Like they're reacting to like it seems like this is risky. It seems like, and also some of them are like his competitors, like car companies. Like we want to fuck you up, and now Tesla stock gets fucked up when Twitter's fucked up. So there's all kinds of games going on. So some of them are pulling out because he's just their competitor. But he's developed a reputation for himself. Some people love it, some people dislike it. So it's obvious that him buying the company's gonna influence advertisers. You know, I agree that yeah, he's just expressing his feelings. He's like upset about how things are going. I guess I just saw this and I was like, this seems like a good example to me of like I'm not just saying this to try to like get a gotcha. I really feel like people use free speech as like a catchword because it's so hard to argue with. And yeah, I feel like people like when he says free speech, it doesn't seem like he's talking about like people's right to express
So
themselves.
you think he's hiding behind the statement of free speech as something that he's hiding behind it?
Well, yeah, and I guess you see it explicitly. Like I don't know what Elon Musk believes, but like you see people say like hate speech is free speech. I think I've seen that specifically said recently, which I don't.
Hateful speech is free speech. Hate speech is not. But people use hate speech to mean whatever they'd like it to mean. The Supreme Court has a super clear, narrow definition of hate speech.
Oh,
And
well,
yeah,
since
I mean, you have
you
to contextualize this stuff um, in our judicial system, I think, because it's like the
oh
only way to ground this conversation.
yeah, this is something I just want to mention because I almost forgot when we were talking about Kyrie. I'm pulling it up right now. This is from yesterday. I took a screenshot of it, so let me know when it shows up on stream.
I see it. Yeah,
Dude,
10,000 people that stand with
dude,
Kyrie.
I saw this yesterday. I mean, like maybe let's say a bunch of them were criticizing the hashtag. Still, I don't know, man. But okay, so I don't know. I, yeah, so it's good that people can express their free speech like that. It just makes you wonder, like, what? So what is not? You don't have to quote the Supreme Court, but since you know more about that, what is the line? I guess I'm sure we've talked about this before, but like what is the line where it becomes like not protected exactly? I mean, it's so hard to ask. There's probably multiple lines.
Imminent threat of lawless action is
Okay.
like how I would summarize that. Like Brandenburg v. Ohio is one of the biggest landmark cases around that. And if you can say there is, based on the specific things that an individual is saying, is violence going to come as a result of this?
Right.
Imminently. Not
Yeah.
just in 30 years, imminently.
Yeah.
So the difference between those fuckers deserve to pay and let us go to this location right now
Hmm.
and make those fuckers pay.
What if
Different
it's what
statements.
if it's someone saying those fuckers deserve to pay who has a history of assaulting people, and they're saying it to a group that they have a history of assaulting people with?
Different. I mean,
Okay.
context matters,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
If you have the if you have the history of like being a satire artist, like if you
Right.
say that on South Park, it's different.
Right.
It is different because context does matter.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
context matters.
and that's, I mean, that's a good standard. I can't argue with that. Like, it's obviously subjective what imminent means. It's not like you can consult a dictionary and stuff. You have to use your brain. But this standard is different than what you or I think a company like Twitter should enforce. Is that true or false?
No, I actually think that Twitter should use the US's standard.
So people should be able to say, I think killing the Jews is a good thing, or
Yeah,
no? Okay.
yeah.
Why?
Why
Like,
not?
I mean,
I think
because
the burden of proof is on you to tell me specifically why not.
okay, because you're limiting the speech.
Yeah, I mean, what you're trying to impose some sort of parameter. Why?
Well, I can give my YouTube channel as an example. Like, if someone leaves a comment that I don't like, say they're just a little too mean or something, I can delete it and hide them from my channel forever. Do I need a good reason for that? I mean, do I? Like, I don't.
You asked me for my opinion on why that should be why that should be okay.
Sure. Well, I'm saying because like I run my platform of my YouTube channel, Twitter runs their platform, and I totally get your argument that you're the one doing something by limiting someone. So like
Uh-huh.
it does like yeah, on the face of it, it's like you should have to justify what you're doing by limiting something.
Why
But
not? Yeah.
I just think there's this other way of looking at it where it's like, well, do I? I mean, if someone comes into my apartment and I want them to leave, do I need to give them a good reason? I mean, I guess sort of, but not really. I don't.
You don't have to give them a good reason, but I'm asking you now,
Okay,
what is the
okay.
reason?
The reason is that I think it leads to violence. I think it leads to violence. Yeah, like I guess my sense of what raises the temperature is like a little more broad, or I'm like a little more risk averse in that regard.
This might digress us a little bit, so I'm sorry if I do, but I'd be remiss not to mention part of the like angst that people who are in agreement with Elon Musk about this whole thing might feel is that this has been really disproportionately and selectively applied based on the political viewpoints of people at Twitter.
I
And
get
that
that.
pisses people off a lot because it's hiding behind this like speech is violence narrative, just like
Right.
some people hide behind the free speech narrative.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they've seen very clear hypocrisy practiced by those in power at Twitter. And it makes people really mad, justifiably so. It's one thing to have clear standards that you stick to, even if those standards are strict,
Sure.
just like someone at like a church or like uh a funeral might have certain very strict standards of speech. Speak quietly, don't
Yeah.
be playing loud music. Okay, but you're going to apply that to everyone.
Right.
Twitter had kicked off Donald Trump for something that wasn't even legally a crime in the United States, but was ethically dubious with respect to his parameters of speech,
Sure.
while leaving on the Ayatollah of Iran, who actively is pursuing genocide of Jewish people.
Why?
That's a
What?
weird one.
Why do you think that is? Because I was yeah, I've never thought about the Ayatollah and him being on Twitter. I didn't even know he was. So why do you think they let him on? I mean, it's not like Twitter likes the Ayatollah Khomeini. I mean,
Um, Not politically expedient. I mean, Iran is sort. This is a more detailed answer than probably what
yeah,
you're
no,
looking
no,
for.
no, whatever.
But
Yeah,
Iran is sort of looked at as the West's lever of influence into the rest of the Middle East.
hmm.
Um, there's been a big, I guess, bifurcation between left and right in the United States on what policy should be with respect to Iran. Maybe that's even changing right now in the context of the internal conflict in
Yeah,
Iran.
yeah.
But I think the right has been more of stop Iran from reaching nuclear capabilities at all costs. They're going to try to pursue it no matter what. We have to try to starve them of those resources to do so. And the left has been more of influence through partnership, right? So,
Right.
like under Obama, sending billions of dollars of cash to Iran under the Iran nuclear deal,
Right.
making them promise that they would cease all nuclear programs for a certain period of time. And so it's a long-winded way of saying I think that Twitter was capitulating to the government bodies who wanted to support the current political pundits in Iran. And so I think that that was simply a political favor that Iran was still there. And with the recent report coming out of how intertwined Twitter,
Yeah.
Facebook, and other media platforms have been with the ruling class in our government, that's not a stretch. That is not an Alex Jones conspiracy theory. That's a logical leap.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too because I know we were like, oh, we should talk about that article in the Intercept. So we can pull that up. But I am curious, like, did Khomeini was he? Do you feel like he was saying things on Twitter that were akin to Donald Trump, or just him as a person and what he believes?
I think he's called for the destruction of Israel before on. Um, that's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't think calling for the destruction of Israel should be considered threatening harm. I mean, I know that might sound silly because it's like, how do you peacefully destroy a country? But I would be a fan of peacefully destroying Israel.
I know
I
you see them as like an ethno state, but
yeah,
in the context of when people say that, they generally don't mean it in like a nuanced way of I think that Israel's mishandling the Israel-Palestine conflict. They usually mean it in as a dog whistle of down with the Jews.
well, and I think when Trump tweeted "Liberate Michigan," it was a dog whistle for raid the Capitol with guns. I mean, and like, who knows
So
what
then
happened?
ban both of them
Right.
or ban neither of them. That's
Right.
my point.
Right. I just don't know what Khomeini was saying. Look, I think there are people in the Taliban on Twitter. Like, I think they let anyone, any type of person on. And I don't doubt that them banning Trump had to do with disliking Trump. Like, I just, that's, I think, entirely possible. Does this speak to a widespread bias? I don't know about that, man. I don't know. Do you feel like there's solid evidence that Twitter has had a genuinely systemic bias for a period of time, or is it? I don't know. Is it isolated cases? They don't like Trump, blah blah blah. I'm not trying to defend Twitter. I've seen a lot of left wing people get banned for dumb shit, and yeah, I don't. What are
I
you
was looking
smiling
for
about?
the I was looking for the tweet from Khomeini.
Oh, nice. I mean, I'm sure he's tweeted some bad stuff. Like,
The
yeah,
long-lasting virus of Zionism will be uprooted thanks to the determination and faith of the youth.
I think that's totally chill. I agree. I think Zionism is terrible, dude. Zionism is okay. Some anti-Semitic people use Zionism as a code word for Jews, no doubt. And I don't know if he's doing that, but I also think being against Zionism is totally fair. I mean,
In the context of his other actions and beliefs, he doesn't mean that he thinks that the settlements are unjust.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Hopefully, it doesn't sound like I'm trying to defend Khomeini either. But as far as like what a platform should have power to do, like, so I guess one slight contradiction that I feel like I sort of notice is like you're saying the platform should um, make its determinations in line with the law rather than having their own different standard of protected speech. Is that
Or if they're
yeah?
going to have their different standard, apply
To
it with extreme rigor and impartiality.
okay,
If you can't do that, follow the law.
okay, okay.
So like
Yes,
if you see something on your platform, this is what I would ask you to do
yeah,
on YouTube, right? If you see a comment that's spewing hate, whatever it is, get rid of it, regardless if it's left wing spewing hate, right wing spewing hate, up spewing hate, down spewing hate, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, have some sort of rigid standard and apply it.
Right. But it's like, is that person spewing hate towards me? Are they spewing hate towards someone I hate? You know, it's like, why should I judge those the same? But we don't want a company like Twitter to act like me as a person. We want them to be more impartial. But I don't know, man. I think the problem is with seeing Twitter as a public town square in the first place. I mean, that it's to me, it'll never be that, and no social media platform will ever be that. Uh, so I don't know. It just
The
seems
town square argument's a, I don't know, a dubious one to me. I get that it's like where people come to say stuff, but you get into the territory real fast of like, oh, the internet's a utility, and like, you know
right.
what, healthcare is a right, and like, you can very quickly, I know things that you agree with, but
That's so funny. Yeah.
but things that you can quickly like wrap your arms around them and hug them into like, this is ours now. Like the collectivist reach gets a little bit wider, and that scares me.
I guess that sort of speaks to why it feels disingenuous to me to have Elon Musk be like, "Oh, I care so much about like making Twitter and the free like making the free speech so much better on Twitter." It's like, well, yeah, so you're really altruistic right now. Is that just like an all the time thing or just
It
right
is.
now?
I think it
Yeah.
is. I honestly
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's fired employees for like speaking negatively about Tesla before and stuff.
Oh, he's
Like,
also really petty.
but isn't that a free speech thing? Like
Uh,
an
could
employee.
could be. Yeah.
Yeah, an
Yeah, for
employee.
sure.
So I
Like I
just
said, I do not agree with everything that the
no,
man has
and I
said
wouldn't.
or done,
I
and
wouldn't
he's a human
expect you to.
being that's
Yeah.
petty, emotional, silly, immature,
Oh yeah, yeah. And
and
I'm
also I
definitely
agree with
yeah.
his overall mission.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not trying to imply that you should have to agree or defend that. I'm just pointing that out as like a point to try to say that it's opportunism with the idea of free speech. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, like so to go to an example of like something flipped around a little bit of like so if a YouTube content creator spends hundreds of hours making a video about the way that like LGBT people are being treated, they upload it, it gets completely limited, age restricted, and their hours are down the drain. That to me, I guess, should I call that a free speech issue? Or should I call that an issue with the platform? I'm honestly asking. I really don't even know. Like, would you
Can you
consider something like
rephrase
that?
it, please?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, no, if someone works really hard on a video, they put out a video, and then it's completely limited because they talked about sensitive topics that are not advertiser friendly. So YouTube says, no, you talked about LGBT stuff way too much in this video, and we're limiting it, so almost no one will see it, and you won't earn any money. Like, do you think I should see that as a free speech issue or just like an issue with YouTube as a platform or both?
Yeah, probably both. I mean, I guess it always depends on the specifics, but
Yeah,
um, I both think it's their legal right to do it. It seems like the same question as before, but it seems like their legal right to do it, but it's up to them if they want to. I just wish, this is my personal view, I wish that they would apply that consistently
sure.
across all political beliefs. And it's really hard to do that.
I'd say it's impossible because in this situation, it's like that's exactly what the problem is. Like left wing people are like, oh, you'll let like Steven Crowder make fun of gay people and monetize his shit, but you won't let gay people just talk about being gay. They get demonetized, and I'm not exaggerating. Like this really does happen a lot, and so it's like, well, how could they even? How could it be universal? I don't like it's so hard to say. Like, is it what subjects you talk about? Is it how you talk about them? I can't make a video about terrorism. People can't learn about terrorism, or or it's gonna get age restricted or something. And it's like,
You,
yeah,
you need people who making those I think I'd be good at it. I honestly think I'd be good at it,
yeah,
because I'm missing that, whatever makes people really like sports teams, that like collectivist, like barbarian. I'm missing it. So like I don't like watching sports. I don't get it at all. I don't like being part of a crowd. Like I'm missing that. I genuinely am. I was talking with someone about this. My mom's the same way,
yeah,
but the rest of my family members are not. Uh, and I think that you have to have some sort of like whatever ideology people subscribe to. If you want to be good at doing that impartially, you have to believe in the ideals of free speech being applied as carefully as possible above political ideology, like
Mm,
above your team winning, above the right thing happening at the end of the day. And the best Supreme Court decisions, in my opinion, are the ones where they make some sort of narrow decision where this kind of feels wrong. Like, I feel like we're
right.
making the wrong decision, but our job is to apply these principles as they are written,
Yeah.
clearly, impartially, and this is what the law leads us to. That kind of thinking is, I think, what's needed to apply these standards in the right way. You can't have partisan hacks at the helm of these institutions.
For sure, and you definitely have to have principles, but those principles can't be divorced from the real world consequences of stuff because that's where the principles come from. Imminent threat of harm. It's like, what are the real world consequences of this? You can't say, well, if I make this decision, if I allow these people to like say demonize or dehumanize this group on my platform, I'm following a principle, but there are other counter principles that could say, well, maybe you shouldn't. So which are the best principles to follow? The ones that I mean, you're not a free speech absolutist. You clearly think there are things that cross the line. Um,
I am a free speech absolutist following the definition up until like a couple months ago.
okay, yeah. I mean, I don't, it's just a. I feel like yeah. I mean, I feel like no one's a free speech absolutist. I mean, as a
I keep
therapist,
feeling.
I have a really good example. It's like, oh, if you were my client, would you be okay with me telling everybody about what you said to me?
Hmm.
I
Is
mean,
that so that like that wouldn't be free speech absolutism to me because you clearly sign away that aspect of speech on your own volition
right.
in order to give people confidentiality.
So why don't people sign away like free speech when they're engaging in other platforms? Like you sign away your right to say, I hate the Jews when you create a Twitter account. Like isn't that
You
just like
can.
any other
Yeah, you
service?
could.
Yeah.
Twitter's
Yeah.
rules on on what you can and can't say are dog shit. They're so vague such that they can be applied however they'd like.
Yeah, and I see that's what you're saying. You just want it to be consistent, but it's so hard also because terms change. We're dealing with like a text platform. For example,
It's
like
hard.
they recently banned groomer from Twitter.
I
Or
think I had
like
seen that.
in certain ways, you can't like call someone a groomer, which is kind of weird because some people do actually groom people, and that is a
Think of
real
all of the like harm that's done to Petco, like their services are going to just fall.
yeah.
Short
They're
Petco, short
one
Petco.
of the advertisers that pulled out. They were the first one. No. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's really interesting because like maybe a year or two ago that wasn't even a word as commonly used as an insult, and it's like so I don't know if it's like oh I hate the Jews, like is that not so bad? Is it like if you're using a slur, is that even worse? Is it like I want them to die? Is it like they should die? Is it like it's weird to have, and then people will just substitute the words with asterisks and shit. I don't know. It's just impossible, I guess, as a goal to do anything that's gonna make everyone happy.
I gotta pee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go to a break. are.
I don't care.
I yeah, whatever. I don't want to go into it. Yeah, I've dealt with stuff like that before. What else is on your mind? I feel like I've been ranting.
Yeah, you have. You're such a
Yeah,
ranter.
yeah,
There's definitely more interesting stuff to talk about.
yeah,
Hey, do you know Andrew Callahan? Sure you do.
yeah, yeah. I made a video about him on my channel.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, a while ago,
He
before Channel 5.
he kind of like remind me of him a little bit,
Thanks.
although I think you'd probably be able to hold the straight face like he does. But and
I
also you
don't
guys
know.
have similar hair sometimes, but
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, he's interesting, right?
Yeah, he's
That's
yeah,
it's fascinating how he can like tell a story or a specific narrative even without like saying almost anything at all, just because he
yeah,
can edit his clips in a way that like shows one side of things. But also I get the sense that it's not really what he's about for the most part. Like I think that he does truly want to show like raw, this is what I've seen, rather
right.
than like I want you guys to see this side of things, so to speak. And
Yeah,
I make that assumption based on like the different variety of videos that he does.
yeah. I love it, and I like I said, I made a whole video about All Gas No Breaks. I looked through a bunch of their stuff, honestly, and I still watch Channel 5 and stuff. But like honestly, sometimes I really don't like it, probably for that reason. It's like
Mm,
sometimes it feels kind of like nihilistic, of like this is just like life as it is. They did one that was, I honestly didn't watch the whole video, so maybe I misunderstood. But he was at a march for people who were like wanted reparations for like people, I guess people who were descended from slaves or something. I don't know the group that was doing the march. They did seem kind of like weird in some ways, but I thought the video was really unfair for something that, we might not all agree, but I think reparations is a great idea. And I honestly think Andrew Callahan probably feels that way too. I could be wrong, but like the video was like completely mocking these people. And I thought
will
like,
link me.
yeah, yeah. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Are you talking about reparations for Native Americans?
No, I think it was for people descended from slaves, which I know you and I might not agree on. But the point is I saw it and I was like, it seems too like neutral, or like too mean almost about something that should be good. But I guess so when it doesn't agree with my views, it's a little bit harder to see the mocking like tone of it.
good
But here,
good content, right? When
oh, it's
sometimes you're like, yeah, show me what those stupid NRA rallies look like, those goddamn hicks, and like sometimes it's like, oh shit, well, but this is not the side I want people to see of my issue.
yeah,
Ah,
totally. Here, I can message it to you on Discord.
is it the Uhuru thing?
Yeah, yeah, you already found it.
I just googled it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's all good. Yeah, it's that one. And
I'm
like to
not
be
paying reparations. Fuck that.
well, I mean, I don't know, man. I like the idea of people being compensated for the ways that they've been. It's hard to really point out how slavery has continued to affect people, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But yeah, I don't even like to see him necessarily making fun of like right wing people or anything either. I more like the stuff that's like what were my favorite ones? Like some stupid convention or like a hip hop convention or something like that, or like I don't know. I guess I just feel like when it's a very serious issue, you have to take some stance on it. You can't really be completely neutral. Um,
I personally, I think it's better when he's going to any of like the huge rallies. Um,
yeah, just see a big
but
mix.
no, because they're like, I think they're maybe more representative of things that actually make their way into influencing the public discourse or influence our society. But I saw one recently where it was like this guy who used to be a coke addict that's like all about like using yoga for sexual healing or something
I
like
know
that.
the guy you're talking about. I couldn't watch that because it's like just you're watching him naked like half the time or something. It's like
They blur
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yes. And it feels exploitive, some of it, where it's like this person's not in a good place. And I think a lot of the people in his videos are not in a good place. But
Yeah.
if you're going to like this big public rally, it feels different to do an expose on someone there than it does to like do it in this really like intimate kind of way. And I get the same vibes where I felt like a little bit ethically dubious about some of the stuff that Nathan Fielder was doing in the rehearsal.
Yeah.
Like same kind of thing. Like look at the people that we're putting the camera on right now. Doesn't feel quite right to me.
Yeah. Totally. I think, and with that one you're talking about, his name's like Will Blunderfeld or some shit. That guy.
Yes.
Um, that what bothered me a little more about that. I only watched the first like 10 seconds, and then there was a line where they're like, check out the or maybe I looked at the top comment, and Channel Five is like, you want to see this uncensored, so check out the Patreon, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like I know it's supposed to be funny, and I guess I'm just like a little snowflake or something, but it's like pay us money so you can see this guy's dick and balls. Like, are you
That's
fucking
weird.
kidding me? And by the way, I don't know if that guy has mental health issues. I think he's just a grifter. So that's what bothers me more too, is like giving all this attention to someone who's only gonna benefit. I mean, probably gonna significantly benefit from this attention.
Dude, no, dude, that guy's got holes in his brain for sure.
Okay,
That's
sweet.
what too many drugs looks like on your brain for sure.
Oh, for sure, but that also makes it even worse. Like he's suffering and struggling, and he's gonna benefit from this. So it's bad in like two ways.
And he's doing live shows with the guy too.
Right. Oh, in that video, he was doing a live show with him.
I like the end of the video. It like
Yeah.
transitions into a live show that Andrew Callahan did, and
Yeah.
like the Blunderfield guy came on and like did a naked song for everyone or something like that.
It really really rubs me the wrong way, and I've been rubbed the wrong way from Andrew Callahan and Channel Five for quite a while, basically since like making a video about it. And I don't know, man. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's really hard for me to put words on it. I think about it a bunch, where it's like, it feels exploitative. It also, I'm sure he's gonna have a great long career and continue to make like really really fantastic stuff. But like, yeah, some of them really don't hit for me, and it feels wrong, and I'm kind of jealous to be honest because it's like a great channel content wise. He appeals to all of YouTube. I mean, literally, like
Yeah.
anyone can find something on his channel that they want to watch, and it's a great business. It's a great market, but that doesn't jive with me as much, I guess. And it's interesting that yeah, you feel some similar ways, but
One that made me feel really sad was he went into a shit area in Chicago that's been flattened by murder. Um, Most of the people in the shitty high rises he was talking to are in gangs. Um, he interviews a bunch of them that like have friends that were murdered, and pretty much all of them are trying. So it was you might know more about this than I do. It's like the ground floor of where some rappers came out of. I think was Waka Flocka one of them.
okay, yeah.
Am I fucking that up?
I
Sorry.
I honestly
Um,
don't even know all that much like hip hop history, so I might not even.
let me find it real quick.
Yeah, take your time.
O Block. Do you know what that is?
Maybe I've heard it. Yeah, I don't really know. No.
Okay. Um, and he's interviewing these guys, and they're like, they have dozens of friends that have just been murdered by like warring factions in the area. And
Yeah.
pretty much all of them are trying to put out rap videos, and some of them have YouTube channels that are like shitty, right? And I just felt kind of sad. There was like one interview he did with one guy, and like maybe I'm projecting, but it just seemed like wasted talent. And I don't mean musically.
Yeah.
I just got the sense that this one individual was like far too bright to be doing this and like had a lot of potential. And just based on where he was born, like he stands no shot. Like he's either going to get murdered or he's got no prospects. And it just made me kind of sad.
It's probably what the video is trying to do, no? I mean,
Uh, maybe just
no?
that one
That
section.
one section. Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of emotional whiplash sometimes, those videos. Like,
that's a good way to say it. That's
yeah.
a really good way to say it.
But
Uh,
yeah. Like, there's clearly some good intentions there. But yeah, some of those rappers I've seen, like, they went to a hip hop festival. I saw, some. It was super entertaining. But yeah, they show you this one rapper. Maybe they link to his channel, or they send you the link, or they show it on screen. Some people go to it. The guy, is it going to help these people's career? Almost probably not. Maybe it's a tiny bump. Maybe it helps, but do they? But All Gas No Brakes is the one getting millions of views and patrons and stuff.
Battle
And
5. But yeah.
oh yeah, I can't even
Because
keep
he
my.
got like whoever he signed a contract with like owns channel or All
Yeah,
Gas No
they
Brakes,
got
and
they
then
got screwed over with that, from my understanding. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very borderline exploitative. Did you watch his Alex Jones interview?
maybe I don't think I finished it. Let me
I
check real quick.
That was one I could get into because, I mean, Alex Jones deserves to be exploited. First of all, I mean, he like deserves to be put under the microscope in any possible way. And you really saw a side of him that was, um, like, I guess I don't know what to say, like uh, truly vulnerable, I guess, and in like a pathetic way. And so I just thought he did a good job. I think Andrew Callahan is a fantastic interviewer. It's more of
Yeah,
like
me too.
the topic choice and stuff that I can have issue with. And stuff.
Yeah, I did finish that interview. I just like
Yeah,
clicked through it real quick. I did
yeah.
finish the one with Alex Jones. There's a good argument to be made that, and Alex Jones knows this. He's not a dummy. Any screen time is good screen time, even if he like has moments where he doesn't look good.
Oh yeah,
He knows how to like, and then the globalists fast enough that like the people who would be interested in that will glom onto that and
oh
ignore
yeah,
everything else. And he's got that shtick down to a science.
yeah,
So any screen time I think for Alex Jones is not really ideal.
yeah.
Hey, for what it's worth, I think he shouldn't be banned from Twitter.
Who, Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Wait, but before we get to that, I want to say like the yeah, and I don't think it hurt Alex Jones at all. I agree with you. Like in that interview, you probably remember Alex Jones's whole defense was like, "Yeah, I killed the kids. Yeah, I killed the kids."
I remember.
Sarcastically saying that as if to imply very clearly, like, how could you be saying I did anything wrong when I'm not the one that killed the kids? And I will say, since then, I've seen his supporters, I presume, online. I've seen several people make that exact argument, like he didn't kill the kids and stuff. And but so it's a good example of potentially stochastic terrorism. I mean, he had his show. He was giving out the personal information of these people, and he was implying they should be targeted. Now, I don't know. It doesn't
Probably one
cost
of the best examples of what you brought up that I could
right,
think of, especially because he was doxing them. Yeah, it's
right,
dog shit, man.
right. So you think he should be not allowed to do that, but he should be allowed on Twitter, or
I don't know how I feel about doxing. I think it definitely feels wrong in
sure,
that
yeah,
context, even if it's publicly available information. Um,
right, right. The publicly available thing can be tricky. It's like,
if I think if you were doxing people that I thought deserved to be doxed, I'd probably agree with it. So I
hey,
got to be really careful about
dude,
it, right?
same here, man. Like I follow accounts on Twitter that dox Nazis, literal neo
I know
Nazis.
you've told me
I've
this.
I've
So
talked about it, yeah, and I think it's good, and I think getting them fired is good, and I wouldn't track them down and try to start a fight with them, but I think it's good for these people to suffer, and yeah, so it comes down to that first question we started with Kyrie Irving is like, is it about the legal principle or is it about the potential harm being, or I guess like. When do you take into account the contextual extenuating factors? Yeah, that these were parents who had lost their kids and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I honestly don't know.
That's why we talk about this like every month for like 3 hours because no one knows, and it's like, but yeah, yeah. So you think the specifics matter? I mean, it's like if it was people who were like clearly doing harm or something, it's like, yeah, why not use your platform to call them out and stuff like that? I mean, also, if your position was that what he did on his show was wrong, but he should be allowed to have Twitter, I wouldn't necessarily disagree. I sort of think you're like they're just different. I don't really need Twitter to be like, well, this person has committed a crime, so they don't get to have a Twitter account. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should be like how you use Twitter that matters most.
It's a tough question. I just think that we're far away from the right way to handle it. I think I have policies where like my approach would be better. It would still have holes, but this is the maybe like as usual the worst of both worlds that we're using right now. Like, yeah, free speech, except when it's something I disagree with.
Sure. And I'm a huge fan. Like I think Trump should be on Twitter because he was one of the funnier accounts, and I I think he can do probably just as much harm without being on Twitter. It's not like he needs that platform per se, but I don't know. Is there? Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
Have you explored the harm of banning someone? I mean, you've talked about like the harm of like, well, yeah, stochastic terrorism, like leaving them on, but like think of the credence that someone like Alex Jones gets when he is like playing the victim. Clearly, he understands the way to play that up by like pandering with like, yeah, you want me to say I killed the kids? I killed the kids.
Right.
That just gives him kind of more ammo in a sense of like, short of completely like Chinese style like Maoist struggle session, like you're gonna reform as a Uyghur in this like camp. He's gonna find a way back onto the internet with a platform.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. It's you
No,
can
that's
kind
a
of fan the
good
flames
question.
unintentionally, even though you think you're doing a good thing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess like there's a lot of different ways that people could benefit from being seen as like too dangerous for this or that platform, and how much do you let that factor in? You know, you have people like Nick Fuentes that are kicked off of every platform, can't even fly on a plane, and
Is that
he
true? You
I
can't fly on a
he's on
plane?
a federal no fly list, which
Really? For
yeah.
what?
I don't know what specifically tipped the scales, but he straight up advocates like getting Jews out of the country.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
that.
But
Not a
anyways,
huge Nick Fuentes
no,
fan.
no, no, no. I'm not, of course. But no, it's like I'd say I think I would certainly say he crosses the line of imminent threats to violence. But to your point, like now he has not only his own he has his own literal website where I believe he owns the website he uses to stream, and he has all these other you know free speech warriors and so on. People who I would argue are using free speech as a cover, obviously. But yeah, I mean, does it help? Does it raise his status in some way? Sure. Does it lower it in other ways? Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point, and you have to take that into account. I mean, I even think about with my YouTube channel, if I ban people for being mean, would I eventually create the reputation for being a dick or an ass, or whatever it might be? But yeah.
You already have that.
I appreciate that. Now I don't have to worry about it. But no, but it's more significant when they're a real, reputable person with a platform or something, and you know that they can be like, "Well, I got banned from Facebook," and it does give people clout in a way. It really does give them some clout.
Have you watched The Boys?
No, I've heard it's really good though. I don't even know anything about
It
it.
is really good. It's very violent. It's gratuitously violent, in a way that it doesn't have to be. Breaks the fourth wall ish almost with the way that
Oh,
they like broach certain political topics, and they like.
hmm.
I won't give too much away, but they characterize. No, I'm not saying characterize, but
Caricature.
caricature rise
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
the current political discourse, and so they
Yeah.
like make some Trumpies and some lefties, and they just give them a different Trump and a
Hmm.
different left wing. It's interesting to
That
watch
sounds
how they
cool.
do it.
Yeah.
Their social commentaries, I guess, poignant at the poignant at the cost of accuracy, I would say.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe you don't want it to be too accurate too, because then it's like I don't want to.
Boring.
Yeah. Well, I want to escape too. Like I don't want to just think about the same people I see on the news. But yeah, I heard it was a good show. I gotta check it out.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good pacing.
Oh yeah. Like Better Call
Yeah.
Saul pace or
No, I would put that at like awful pacing. Um Necessary for the storytelling
yeah,
that Better Call
totally,
Saul's doing,
totally.
but like that's tough. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
lose a lot of people.
Yeah. Dude, I can't wait for Better Call Saul to come out on Netflix. Like eventually, I don't know when. Like the season 6, because I feel like a lot more people will check out my vids when that happens. But apparently,
Oh, really?
yeah, apparently they didn't release season 5 on Netflix until like 2 years after it aired. So
I wonder how that stuff works behind the scenes,
there's
like
a
with
lot.
deals.
Yeah, a lot of contracts and stuff.
Let's talk about something totally different.
Yeah. What's your favorite type of
I
pet? No, I'm
I've
just kidding.
invested almost everything I'm worth into Facebook.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh well,
Uh,
I'll root for you. I hope it goes up. I mean,
it's hyperbole, for sure. It's not everything I'm worth, but it's a lot of what I'm
yeah,
worth.
yeah. So
Uh,
yeah, what are you thinking there?
I think so. You've seen Rick and Morty, right?
I've seen a few episodes. I haven't seen a lot of it, unfortunately. But
Oh, really?
yeah,
Why not?
I don't know. I just there are so many shows like that. I've just heard so much about and never really checked out.
Do you know Roy, the life of Roy?
No,
Um, maybe
never
you
even
could
heard.
play. Could you play it on stream?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it a clip?
It it's yeah. It's like well, it's like 3 minutes, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Let me pull it up. The Life of Rory.
it'll be from Adult Swim, 2015.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more
All
Let's
right,
see.
play that on stream.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get this. Hold on.
This is a totally different direction.
Yeah, no, I'm good because we talk so much about free speech and stuff. It's like we can change it up sometimes.
Maybe a little. We were a little too free about our own speech,
Too free.
perhaps.
That's what I always say. I say we need to rein in our own free speech. Okay, so let's try this. All right, so I'm gonna play it right now.
Complicated out here. These are flurbos. Do you understand what 2 humans can accomplish with 3,000 of these? Oh, what? An entire afternoon at Blips and Chips! Oh, this place is the best. It's got beer, games, prizes, and you can never tell what time it is.
Audio.
Is my audio bad?
Oh, you're good now. You're good.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sold a gun to a murderer so
I don't know
you
if
can
you
play
think you're
video
playing it, but
games?
you're not.
I'm not playing it.
Oh, now it is. Now it is. Okay. It
Oh,
just.
okay.
I'm watching the
I
stream.
got you.
So it
Yeah,
just
it's like
popped
no,
up.
no, no. Yeah, there's always like a 10 or 15 second delay with the stream. Yeah. All right. Here, so they're at some event.
Prizes, and you can never tell what time it is.
Audio's
Sold
not
a gun
coming
to a
through from
murderer
it.
so you can play video games? Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever.
Oh, wait a minute.
Get some
You're.
sleep. I don't.
I'm an idiot. I'm so sorry. Could you try again?
No, you're good. Yeah, yeah. Let me play.
Press,
You want?
press play again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries.
It's more complicated out here. These are flurbos. Do you understand what 2 humans can accomplish with 3,000 of these? Oh, what? An entire afternoon at
I'm a
Blips
moron.
and Chips!
I had
this
our
place is
stream
the best.
muted so that it wasn't bothering us.
It doesn't. Yeah, no. I had no worries.
It's got beer, games, prizes.
It's actually no worries because I was also confused about what was going on, so I do need to watch it again.
Oh, this place is the best. It's got beer, games, prizes, and you can never tell what time it is. You sold a gun to a murderer so you can play video games? Yeah, sure. I mean, if you spend all day shuffling words around, you can make anything sound bad, Morty. Here, check this out.
Roy, what's wrong?
I had a nightmare. I was with an old man. He put a helmet on me.
It's just a fever. Get some sleep. I don't want you missing school on Monday.
I want you kids to look around you today and think about your future. Now is the time in your life when anything is possible.
Spiraling perfectly, it's going to be caught by Roy Parsons. Roy Parsons is at the 20. Now he's at the 10. Nothing can stop Roy the Rocket. Touchdown!
I just think it's time to get realistic. Have you talked to my father about the carpet store? Roy?
Had we caught it sooner? Well, hindsight is 20/20, Roy. What's important is that we move quickly.
I'm not ready to die.
You're not going to.
Hey, thanks for the carpet, Roy.
Hey, Roy, you pull those Persian off-white shacks for the clearance sale?
Whoa. Shit! Oh, what the hell? Whoa, where am I? 55 years. Not bad, Morty. You kind of wasted your 30s, though, with that whole bird-watching phase. Where's my wife? Morty, you were just playing a game. It's called Roy. Snap out of it. Come on. I'm Morty. You're Rick. Hey, you sold a gun to a guy that kills people. Look at this. You beat cancer and then you went back to work at the carpet store? Boo. Don't dodge the issue, Rick. Selling a gun to a hitman is the same as pulling the trigger. It's also the same as doing nothing. If Crumbopulous Michael wants someone dead, there's not a lot anyone can do to stop him. That's why he does it for a living. Now, excuse me, it's time to thrash your Roy score. You know, you could stop this killing from happening, Rick. You know, you did a bad thing selling that gun, but you could undo it if you wanted. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the difference between you and me, Morty. I never go back to the carpet store. Holy shit! This guy's taking Roy off the grid! This guy doesn't have a social security number for Roy!
Oh, that's crazy. Oh my god. Well, that's interesting.
I'm still watching. One sec. All right, yeah, because I was on delay. So
No. Yeah, I do think there's a way in the future we can do screen share. But anyways, that was interesting.
Yeah. Tell me what you thought.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was like, oh, I wonder why you're showing this. It's probably like the idea of like simulated life is kind of an interesting aspect of it for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I guess it's very interesting. Yeah.
So Mark Zuckerberg is pledging $250 billion in expenses over the next 10 years to the metaverse.
Yeah.
And that's got a lot of people's panties in a bunch, so to speak.
Why?
They're not too happy. Why are they pissed?
Yeah, why are people pissed about that?
That's more money cost adjusted than it took for us to go to the moon for the Apollo mission.
But why would people care about that? Is that a stupid question? I guess.
Well,
You mean
investors
Facebook?
don't want
Right.
him to spend money on something that isn't going to make Facebook a ton of money.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you meant investors or other people. Yeah.
Investors.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The stock price has gone down like over 70% in the last year.
I saw that. There was a 20% day last week or something. Yeah.
So the value of Facebook has gone from $1.1 trillion in its peak to like just under $300 billion, I think, or $250 billion, which is a massive. I think it's the single largest drop in investor wealth for one company in the history of the stock market. So it's huge. People basically see that he's just pissing away all of Facebook's profits for the next decade, and they are unsure about whether or not what he is saying is actually going to materialize into money. But Mark Zuckerberg has the controlling shares of Facebook, and what he says goes. So this is what they're doing.
So the reason for the drop was what you're saying, like people being like, you're spending too much money on virtual stuff. Was that a big cause of it?
Combined with they missed earnings, meaning that they earned slightly less money than they said they were going to, as did Amazon, Microsoft, Apple,
Companies
Google.
do that all the time.
So that's like part of the decline. Also impending recession fears. All of those things compounded with, holy fuck, you mean he's not just trying to like cash cow this thing and invest into Instagram and Facebook as needed. He's just taking all of his chips and betting it on this one thing, the total market for which is like $500 million a year or something like that. Like it's small at the moment, right?
For now,
For now. So he's trying to bet on the future, a future that he envisions. But if you've looked at what virtual reality is right now, it's not great. I mean, it's okay. There's some cool things that you can do, but it's not great.
You're familiar with, what's the big one? VR chat?
Yeah, I know about it, yeah.
VR chat. I've never played it. I just know that's like, I think the most popular free one, or...
I think you're right. I mean, the headset's still really expensive to like get in on these, but yeah.
Right. But anyways, I do think virtual reality is probably going to get more and more popular. I mean, it is also, I'm sort of shaped by like movies and how we imagine the future, but it's kind of hard to imagine virtual reality not becoming more and more popular. It just fits in line with everything else we do to entertain ourselves.
Here's my investment thesis. I'll try to distill it down. I'm pretty pessimistic about the direction our society's headed with respect to costs of living going up disproportionately to incomes. Wealth disparity is going to continue separating between the haves and the have-nots. Opportunity, I think, is going to get more squashed, and those who don't have are going to get replaced by robots, I think. So I think that economic mobility is going to kind of cease to exist. And I think it's going to be a lot cheaper for our corporate overlords to stick a pacifier in our mouths rather than to actually look for, like, let's give these people meaningful economic opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can stick a fucking headset on someone for 8 hours a day and make them feel fulfilled, or like, yeah, your life sucks, like your drinking water in Flint blows, but like you could put this headset on and you live like I live, like infinity pools, cruise ships, spaceships, whatever. How are you going to, who would choose not to go for that? If your life here is shitty enough and your life there could be good enough, people are going to do that almost all the time, I think. If you then, I showed you this, the Rick and Morty clip, because it's just occurred to me yesterday. If you can somehow accelerate the rate of perception in virtual reality, you can effectively give people more years on their life. Because I could put the headset on for 8 hours and feel like I lived for 12 hours or 20 hours or a year. And now I'm buying extra time in my life, so to speak.
Yeah.
People will pay unlimited amounts of money for something like that. The implications for learning, I mean, you could truncate education down into a couple days. Think of like vis-a-vis the Matrix, the way that they teach them how to fly. The implications, if you could do something like that, maybe in conjunction with Neuralink, are endless. Okay, I'll shut up.
No, you don't have to shut up. I think that's a really good point. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think something like that, in my completely uninformed opinion, we're very far out from. Being able to actually dilate your perception in that way just strikes me as extremely difficult. Probably possible, but I would guess 50 to 100 years out. That's just my complete speculation.
I don't. It happens in your dreams.
I guess
your perception of the passage of time is changed. It's not correct.
Yeah.
In your dreams.
Yeah, that's true. I guess. I mean, I guess to me, dreams seem like more like they just have jumps, but the situations themselves are still relative, which still would be amazing.
But you can fill in the gaps. I mean, think of how a movie tells a story. A movie can happen over days, but if you just give people the key points, it feels like it happened.
Yeah, just like the Roy thing. I mean, no, it's totally. So you think like maybe there's some chemicals, maybe there's some. I mean, I don't doubt it. I think there are probably ways to do this psychologically. Like my issues with stuff like that is more that I wouldn't trust. I don't trust. Like I don't trust Elon Musk. I don't think he's responsible. I don't like how he conducts himself.
But you trust Zuckerberg?
No, of course not. So it's like So like something that like Neuralink, I have only negative feelings about, but I see the point of it, and I think it could be used for good in different people's hands. Meta, I can definitely see. Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, man. I mean, that's like what society's already like. Like, if we didn't have like Netflix and all this other shit, people would be rioting in the streets. I mean, like much more often. I mean, I'm not just trying to say Netflix, but if we didn't have a lot more of our creature comforts, which as Americans, like our high standard of living is built on the low standard of living of other people around the world.
I don't totally agree with. I think that there's an aspect of that with respect to comparative rates of labor and like the cheap goods that we get.
Yeah.
We are relying on consistent low wages elsewhere. And I think that we give them slightly better standards of living, but save most of the surplus for ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm not educated enough to make a good argument. I know the term is like unequal exchange, which probably refers to what you're saying, and also even like more macro level stuff of like currency, how currencies work, and just basically, how a big country, like if we're loaning a bunch of money to another country, how does that really work? Does it benefit us? Does it benefit them? I don't want to speculate and act like I know about this, but I know about unequal exchange is the term for this way that big countries will get the majority of the benefit. But regardless, like. I definitely think that our consumption habits keep us from advocating for like better conditions for ourselves for sure. And I think something like virtual reality is a really great and not like evil. I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, this is so evil. It's great. I like entertaining myself. I like doing things where I'm not thinking about my life problems and stuff. And I would probably want to do some virtual reality stuff. But yeah, I think that yeah, I hope it goes up for you, their stock at least. But what's the deal with the animation? You tell me. So they're showing these clips of the meta world and the
Oh, it's
animation.
fake.
What's the deal with that?
It's like CGI. Is that what you mean? Like it's
But
not actual footage. Yeah, they've been doing that shit for a long time in video games where it's like not actual footage from the game.
no, but I don't even mean that. And I haven't looked enough into it, so maybe there's a lot of stuff. But you see these animations of like what it looks like in the meta world, and it looks like not as good as like why doesn't it look like, if they're spending so much money, why doesn't it look like awesome animation? I don't.
Yeah, it's like PS2 graphics, right? Like
What's the
why is
deal
it
with
so
that?
shitty? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could totally explain why, but it's not there yet, is all I'll say. Like the
Which
graphics
yeah.
are worse,
Yeah,
but
it's
they'll get
totally fair.
better.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the rate of progression of graphics on like conventional video game consoles over even the past 15 years, it's insane
So they have
how
to
far
sort of
they've
start at
come.
the beginning, I guess. It's not like they can
Again,
just
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think so because
yeah.
again I'm like speculating because I
Yeah.
really don't understand like the computer engineering side of things, like the
Sure.
hardware side of it.
Sure, yeah.
I do know they have a specialized Snapdragon graphics card for this specific for the Oculus, but yeah, I
Oh.
think like the hardware has to catch up again.
Yeah.
And you're generating, this is my perception, 2D, right? Way different kind of rendering than full world perception.
Hmm.
Um, you should check out. I don't know if you can, if you have a friend with a headset, do you? Do you know someone that you could?
I don't. I used to, and I used a friend's headset where he had his paintings in it, so you were like looking at his paintings. I
Cool.
never did anything else. Yeah.
One of the coolest things I liked was um, 3D YouTube videos of nature, where you can
Oh.
actually like, it's a drone that is like flying low overhead above like in nature, like a shitload of evergreen trees up in like the north, and you
Yeah.
just can like look around and it's like, oh my god, this is incredible, and it
Oh
really
yeah, dude.
produces a genuine feeling of immersion.
Yeah.
Obviously, the headset is like cumbersome. It gets smaller,
Yeah.
it gets less cumbersome, the graphics get better, the
Yeah.
content starts getting produced for it, and that kind of stuff can happen really, really rapidly,
Yeah.
and it's hard to foresee it coming.
Yeah.
Anyone who saw the first iteration of the computer was never going to be like, yeah, and then in 40 years you'll have that in your hand. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. No way. No way. No, I mean totally, man. It might be not a bad bet at all. I could definitely see that. I mean, the one thing I would argue is like this idea of like, I don't know if you said the majority of people, but like people deciding to live a lot of their lives in this. I think that gets into philosophical questions. Would people do that? Would they not? There's an
Yeah, they would.
yeah, there's an ancient philosophical thought, what is it called? The thought experiment, where it's like a brain in a vat, right? I think that's what it's called. It's like the brain in the vat experiment. It's like this idea of like, yeah, if you could live your life basically, and it would be, you would feel like everything's normal and enjoyable and
It's the
awesome.
Matrix.
Yeah, it's the Matrix. It's the Roy. It's literally all this stuff. And I mean, it's a thought experiment, so there's no answer. But I don't know. I think a lot of people hear stuff like this and would say, yeah, I'd try it, but at a certain point, I would just want to live my life and hang out with people I know. And this isn't an argument for it not being successful. Just on that level of like, how much would you want to live your life in virtual reality? You know?
The whole thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's impossible for us to like to perceive that because it seems like that's the fake life,
Right.
right? Like why would I want to live in what's fake? No,
Yeah.
I want the real stuff. But at some point that one, if it's good enough, it is real life. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you knew it wasn't, you would still want to do that?
I don't think it would matter. I think like the human perception is so um reformable that it would be trivial. Like you're okay, for example, you're not really seeing and hearing me right now. Your brain is using inputs,
Yeah.
like electromagnetic input, converting that into chemical and electrical signals that your brain is seeing,
Yeah.
and then interpreting that as perception.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't really happening. What's really happening is electrochemical signals. So is
Right.
that what's real?
No,
No,
totally.
it's just like one layer removed of perception. It doesn't really matter. What matters is like, what does your brain think is going on? There's an argument to be made. We might be in a simulation right now, and it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, no, I totally get that. Like, it doesn't matter. But when I guess it's the difference between we might be in a simulation and we are in a simulation. And I think the question of like, if you didn't know it was virtual reality, I don't know how to answer that because like, would I want to live my life in virtual reality if I didn't know? That's sort of hard to answer. I have to use as like an assumption, and that's what the difference is. Because the difference of what you're saying, even though that's true, it's like when I see you next in person, I can be like, hey, remember when we talked about X, Y, and Z? And like you're presumably going to be like, yes, because
And I could even replay it.
right, yeah, we'll have this on YouTube and stuff.
No, I mean, like, I could, in virtual reality, like, I could just be like, I'm not sure. Let's go back and look.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's cool. But I just mean like the difference between this being virtual and this being real. Like, what if this is probably a real virtual reality use case where like you could talk to your family member and they're not even real. Like that's
100%.
Yeah,
People
100%.
will never die. How
Yeah.
would you give up that?
Dude.
Isn't that better?
I don't know, man. I don't
It
know.
starts slow. It starts slow, right? Like
Yeah.
when we think of, do the thought experiment, like what would life inside of virtual reality be like? We usually go to the extremes of like,
Yeah.
but what about sex? Like that wouldn't exist, but that's not how it starts. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it would be a lot better if we could do like practice surgery in VR
Yeah.
first or practice being a pilot. And it like,
Yeah.
it compounds, right? It starts a little bit, it takes a hold. Well, it's clearly better for that.
Right.
What if we did it for this? And I think that I think that it will win the day. It's a guess, but
Yeah.
I think it will win the day.
And I'm not even trying to say like whether it's better or worse to do things in that way. I'm also even just saying like whether people would want to or what amount of people would want to. And I think it obviously depends on the situation, on the use that you're talking about. And it just gets into interesting philosophical questions about what is meaningful to us. I'm honestly glad I ranted earlier about like why is life meaningful, because I actually think I feel like it plays into this exact point, because it's like I could be wrong, but I feel like what I was trying to express is almost like the opposite of reductionism, where it's like there's something irreducible about a moment and about conscious experience that makes it significant regardless of consequences and stuff like
That's just like your opinion, man.
that. It is.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
No, it
that's-
genuinely is though.
No, I know it is, but
Yeah.
like there isn't anything objective about that, right?
No, it's genuinely my opinion is what I'm saying. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that I could ever say to prove it. It's a belief that I would say like structures action or something like that. But
There's nothing really unique about that. It's reproducible. Like that's just a feeling that you get when a certain set of conditions are met.
Yeah, I think
and you can reproduce that. I think you can simulate that. People simulate that with drugs.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I guess it's like, but where's the line? When do you want to simulate experience? When do you not want to simulate experience? I think there's lots of good that can be done with virtual reality. I think there's lots of bad that will be popular. I think there's lots of developments that can happen. It does just bring into interesting questions. Like, so do you think you're in the majority or the minority when you say like you would live your life in virtual reality if if it was good enough? Or...
You mean my answer?
Yeah. Do you feel like that's the majority of people who would do
Most
that?
people would not say that. Most people would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ask it like that, everyone's gonna say no. But if you ask like, well, do you like feeling your backache every morning?
Right.
Do you like that your body ages? Do you like that you can't see people's faces right in front of you? Do you like that you can't smell those that you have lost from death? Like, do you like that? Well, no. Do you like that you can't eat as much as you'd like because you're going to get super fat and it's going to make your life worse. All of these things. I mean, if you look at each individual like pro con of everything you do in your day, like, yeah, I spend an hour sitting on the toilet every day, and like I spend 6 hours eating, and oh yeah, I go to sleep and I don't even remember my dreams, and oh yeah, I definitely think about the fact that I'm gonna die, and my children who I love more than anything, I'm never gonna see them again. If you ask people like, you want me to solve that problem for you? They say yes. I mean, I think so anyway.
Yeah,
That's my bet.
I think you're right. But then when you rephrase that and you say, well, yeah, you'll get to not have your backache, you'll get to, not have this and that, but there are consequences to the solution. There are problems to the solution as well, and it's like,
No doubt.
yeah, it's just like, is it worth it? It's a really interesting philosophical question beyond of just like how popular will VR get. Like, how much would your average person want to spend their life in VR? I'm not saying it's a small amount. I just think it's really interesting how people, and that's the point of the brain in a thought experiment. I think is it's supposed to make you be like, oh yeah, that's interesting that people seem to think there's something irreducible about human experience. It's interesting that people seem to think that even when you create an example where you're saying there's nothing different about it, and you're saying it could literally feel the exact same. Yeah,
it's a very human centric. It's a very through our own lens kind of view, and we like to do that. We like to anthropomorphize many things. Perception being one of them. Consciousness is something we think we have a monopoly on, and like there's a lot of things that we think are special about humans. If you look at religious texts for a long period of time, it echoes this as well.
And philosophy too,
And sure. And I think that people are doing this like kind of as a coping mechanism of our like being aware of our own mortality. I honestly think it's like you get those hand in hand because we evolved this. It's like, well, fuck, I don't know what to do with that.
100%.
Okay, we're really important, and and it's like it's too much to bear. Like my dogs, I love them. They don't deal with this. They don't have that thing where they're thinking about growing old and losing each other and stuff like that. And I think those two kind of go hand in hand.
Do you think like dolphins are aware of their mortality, or at a certain
more than dogs? Possible. But I don't know. I don't know.
I haven't asked them. No, but it's possible. It's possible because it's conscious. I completely agree that consciousness is not just a human thing. And I think I'm really excited for you to watch my next Better Call Saul video, actually, because I heavily cite this book called Denial of Death, which is all about how ourselves and our personalities and who we are and what we value about ourselves comes as a reaction to not wanting to think about dying. So we create situations where we're like the hero or we're really special or something, so we can feel like there's something about us that matters and that will last beyond our mortality, and we're not just animals and stuff. And I definitely think that telling ourselves we're the only conscious creatures is a really good example of like wanting to feel special, wanting to feel like we're different than animals or other dying things. But
I gotta meet up with some friends soon to go mountain biking.
This has been great.
Can we end the podcast and then let's talk for a couple
minutes?
Yeah,
great. Bye everybody. Thanks for watching.
See ya.